Today's story is titled, My Workplace Started a Compliment Jar. Now, no one has any privacy, by Bilbo Cheated. The link to the story is in the description below. Please enjoy. I don't think I've had any privacy for a few weeks. I work for a third-party call center that operates out of a long shut-down department store in a walled-off section of a half-shuttered mall. The windows are all boarded up, and we have to use the metal doors in the back. We handle customer service for multiple businesses, so one minute I could be helping a woman reboot her Wi-Fi, and the second that call ends, I mean that literally, I will be helping a man reschedule his refrigerator delivery. If there is one saving grace to this job, it's the variety. For many, though, that isn't enough to make up for the fact that we only get a 15-minute lunch and a cumulative 10-minute break time, including bathroom breaks. You want to make sure you use it, because it can't be carried over to the next shift, but you get written up for going over the allotted break time. Turnover was so bad that experienced reps were spending more time training new reps than taking calls. Management started calling it a measurable loss of productivity. One coworker of mine, Sharon, sort of acts like our de facto HR. The branch can't even hold a legitimate HR employee, which should tell you a lot. Sharon's a middle-aged woman who used to work in social work, but this unfortunately paid better. A few weeks ago, she took it upon herself to fix the turnover problem. Her solution? A compliment jar where we write nice things about one another, and once a week, Sharon opens and reads them to everyone during the shift. She hoped that it would boost morale and get employees talking to one another outside the confines of work. Everyone groaned at the idea of another task to complete for the week, but she assured us that participation was encouraged, but not at all mandatory. She just wanted everyone's hard work to be seen. At the end of the first week of her new experiment, Sharon gathered us around and stood behind her desk. She reached her hand into the jar and pulled out the first folded up strip of paper and read it aloud. "Tim is always patient with the assholes." I wasn't really sure who Tim was, and by the squeaking chairs and silence, I don't think many of us did. Someone finally broke the silence with a little clap. No one knew how to act after each compliment was read aloud, but in the end, we resorted to half-assed clapping between compliments like, "Alice makes the best coffee in the break room. Thank you, Emma, for fixing my headset. If you need to troubleshoot a TV, you can always count on Blake." People didn't really know how to act when their names were called either. Some stayed in their seats. Others stood and gave an awkward wave to the crowd of colleagues. The whole thing seemed performative to me at the time, and I thought this would die out quickly. Sharon always took the jar home with her in the evening. A few days after the first reading, Sharon walked past my desk with the jar tucked under her arm. "Bill, how do you think this is going?" I looked around at the busy office and then back to Sharon. "Well, no one is crying." She laughed. "I know all of this is corny," she said. "People are miserable here. We get screamed at for 8 hours, then we go home and worry about the next day, wondering if anyone would notice if we didn't come back." "Management would notice." "Only if the call queue's back up." "You think this will fix that?" I asked as I pointed to the jar. There was no way in hell this office could keep that going. She shrugged. "Maybe it'll get people to at least look at each other." By the next reading, I thought I was right when the first few were basically just praise for always being on time for work. It looked like the compliments were getting lazier. We had already run out of nice things to say to one another, and we were just grasping at straws to find something to add. Then there was, "If you're on a tough call, just look over at Josh." That one got a laugh out of me, because Josh always seemed stressed out of his mind. After that, more ended up being funny. "Madison, I love how your chair squeaks in rhythm with the hold music when you need a little break on the line." Sharon seemed so proud because it seemed this initiative was actually going to take off. To her credit, it really did seem like the office was a brighter place. There were more conversations between people on their breaks, and just a lighter general mood in the office. Over the next week, I found some of the conversations at work to be extremely awkward, but it was better than before. Anything was better than nothing. On Wednesday, David came up to me while I was getting a cup of coffee that Alice had brewed for everyone. "Are you having to leave earlier to get here on time?" I finished my sip, cleared my throat, and asked, "I'm sorry?" "I mean, with all that road work on Laurel Street, do you have to leave for work earlier?" Now, I know I didn't tell him where I lived. I only knew his name was David because he had a tag with his name on his cubicle. But the road work 2 streets down did delay me, and it was extremely annoying. "Yeah, do you live around there too?" "No, just read about it in the paper." David was a strange guy. Maybe I had mentioned my street before. The 3rd week, Sharon confidently announced the reading of the compliments. As she unfolded the first sliver of paper, she paused, furrowed her brow, and then chuckled before reading. "I'm happy that Alice got her oil changed over the weekend. That sound was really starting to bother me." The regular clapping commenced as Sharon looked up at the crowd. "Is that an inside joke or something?" No one responded, so she continued. "Tim, your son really seems to enjoy the clown at the birthday party last week. Elizabeth, your stylist was so right to suggest that color. I'm so happy you changed your mind in the chair. Blue curtains were the way to go, Alex. Much better than the green, especially with that rug. We gotta talk about the new bedspread, though." Each one Sharon tried to laugh off. "I'm so happy that this has led to some after-hours friendships." Sharon pulled the next slip and hesitated as she skimmed it. She frowned as she stared at the slip, looked up at the crowd in disbelief, and then back at the paper in her hand. This one's just for me," she said. Annoyed sighs filled the room as she searched for the next compliment. When my name was called, I was jolted to attention. "Bill, I love how you are so careful when you water the tomatoes in your vegetable garden. I think spraying some cayenne pepper and water on it all will work better than the chicken wire." My fingers became numb, and my chest felt hollow. I have never spoken to anyone here about my garden, and I have never posted about it anywhere. At the end of the reading, as everyone was rolling or shuffling back to their cubicles, Sharon tried to raise her voice above the noise. "From now on, let's try to keep these workplace appropriate." On my way home, I checked my mirrors for anyone following me. I checked my fence for cameras or loose boards. Nothing. I monitored the jar this whole week, and I saw no one put in a compliment. But every morning, there were a few more in the jar. I wasn't the only one shaken by an intrusive message. The office has been quieter. People are hiding their phones and closing laptops as others walk by. There's less bathroom traffic, and people are taking fewer breaks than ever before. I even noticed a few people driving different cars to work than I had remembered. It can't just be one person. I have my suspicions about a few. Of course, there was David. He knew where I lived somehow. Then there was Sharon. She always took the jar home with her. The only other weird conversation was with Ted, who told me that he thought peppers would grow better in my garden. When I asked if he was the one who left me the compliment, he laughed it off.
"No, I just heard about the tomatoes, and I thought we were more in a pepper climate. That's all."
I tried to talk to Alice when I saw her at the vending machine, staring at the rows of snacks, deciding what was going to get her through the rest of the afternoon. "You know this isn't normal, right?" I said. She tapped her card on the machine and began to punch in her numbers. "The compliments," I continued. "You've heard it. The curtains, your oil change, my garden. People are following each other." Her snack fell. As she bent down to retrieve it, she whispered, Don't what?" She stood up and looked at me. her eyes darting to mine and then past me and back. "Don't make people think I'm talking to you about this." "Alice." "Please," she said. "Don't make it worse for me." That afternoon, I caught Blake following me. I pulled into my driveway, parked, and got out of my car. He pulled in and then began to back up like he was just using it to turn around. I motioned for him to roll down his window and yelled, "Blake, what the hell?" He rolled down his window an inch as he pulled off and yelled, "I was just trying to find something nice to say." I was dumbfounded. Did he really think that was appropriate? The day before the next reading, I decided to write my first real compliment. I wanted to prove a point. I folded it and dropped it into the jar. "Blake," I wrote, "I love how determined you are to find compliments, even if you'll follow people home to do it." I thought it would be read, and everyone would understand how out of hand this had gotten. That night, I got a call from Sharon. "Hello?" "Hey, Bill." She was keeping her voice low. "I know you're upset, but you can't start writing stuff like that." "Sharon, Blake followed me home. He said he just wanted to find something to put in the compliment jar. This has gotten out of hand. I'm trying to stop this." "That's what everyone says." "You need to stop this." After a few seconds of silence, Sharon said, "I want to, Bill, but the regional office won't let me. They want to implement jars in other locations. Productivity has spiked at our branch, and turnover is almost non-existent." "But, Bill, listen. I have the jar at my house, and I am screening all the slips. You got one." "And?" "It says, 'Bill, I love how you inspected your fence the other day. It's important to take pride in what we have.'" I can't remember the rest of the conversation. I just stopped listening to what I was hearing and prepared for the next day. I actually drafted this last night, talking about how I wasn't going to go to the readings anymore, just to avoid the whole thing, but I decided not to send it. I didn't want to give them anything for today's reading. This morning, I walked into work, and everyone was already sitting, chairs pushed together in anticipation, like they were pigs at a trough, smiles on their faces. Sharon began with, "I asked us to keep things workplace appropriate. I went through all of these last night. Other than a few complimenting others on their new cars, I can't read any of these." Some booed, and a few stood and shouted that she was censoring our positivity. Sharon argued for a bit with the crowd and began to step away from the desk. As she did, Madison pulled the jar from her and took Sharon's place. Sharon kept walking out the door. Madison began, "You were so brave deleting their number, Emma. Even if you did end up putting it back in your phone later on. Josh practiced the best apology in his car before he went inside the apartment. Madison, I think it's so sweet that you still sleep on your husband's side of the bed. Aw, guys, that's so sweet. Thank you for thinking of me." She continued, and I was happy to see we were almost finished. Madison went to put the lid back on the jar. "Oops, found a couple of stragglers. Sharon, you were so brave to leave before we were finished. I love how much faith you have in your breaks." Silence. I noticed some people glancing toward the metal doors. Others looked around, taking note of who seemed most uncomfortable. "Okay, everyone, last one for the week," Madison said. "Bill, I love how you still think strangers can help, even when Sharon can't." Some laughed and cheered, while others simply watched me. I'm not sure if all this time their cheers are for the recipient or for the writer. I'm back home from my shift. I saw a strip of paper caught in my chicken wire. I bent down and grabbed it. "Bill, I love how careful you are about locking your door. Most people forget the kitchen window." I looked up at my window and saw the blinds move. I ran inside to find Blake in my kitchen. He looked embarrassed, like I had caught him stealing copy paper again.
Get out of my house!
He smiled and said,
Your voice carries so well.
I stepped towards him, and he stepped towards the door.
Excellent posture,
He said.
very protective of your property.
He slipped out of the door. As he walked off, he looked over his shoulder and said,
See? Plenty of nice things to say.
I can't decide what to do. I can't get a hold of Sharon. Her phone is going straight to voicemail now. And if anyone from work is here reading this, I guess I should add a compliment. Sharon, thank you for the compliment jar. I know you just wanted to help. Morale has never been higher.